What's up, guys? Rick here with your DFS preview for this week's Open Championship, the final major of the year, coming off of an unbelievable finish on Sunday at the Scottish Open. Vibes are very high, and I've got giveaways, I've got news, and then we are going to go through the golf course very much in depth from a data-driven approach, the field, what to look for, what not to look for. We're going to cover it all, but real quick, I showed you this last week. I have been buying as much Open Championship stuff as I can get my hands on. Hats and beanies and golf balls and pin flags and drinkware. I don't even have enough arms for all of it. Shirts, sweatshirts. Here's some more. Travis Matthew gear with the Open Championship logo. Mugs, whatever, water bottles, whatever I could get my hands on. I have a box full of it, okay? And I'm giving it away. So just like I did at the US Open with a swag box, I'll pick a couple names on Monday. I'll send out a couple of care packages. It'll be all fun and games. It's very simple to enter. All you have to do is sign up for my free weekly email newsletter. I send out golf stats every single week. It is free. That is all you have to do. RickRunGood.com/newsletter. There is a link in the description. If you are already signed up, you are already entered. Very, very simple. I'll pick a couple winners next week and I'll get a package out in the mail. That is number one. Number two, big congratulations goes out to Jay Waterboy, who won our contest, our listener league contest last week. $900 off a $25 entry with the lineup that you're seeing on YouTube right now. McIlroy, Fleetwood, Lowry, Fox, Herbert, and Dietrich. It's a tiers style game, so you just pick one name from every single tier. The good news is the Open Championship contest is already out. This will probably fill quickly because it's a 3-entry max, $15. I haven't even announced it yet, and a tenth of it is full. If that's the case, we'll see if we can open up another one. But go ahead, get involved in this. There's a link in the description. Join us on Splash. It's a site that bought out Office Football Pool and Run Your Pool. It's pretty slick. We're testing it out. Go and sign up. There's a link in the description. It's a private contest. You're going to have to use my link to get into it. The final and third thing, which I can't believe I'm even saying here, is you can bid on a Zoom call with me on eBay. That is true. So the guys at CBS Sports came to me every year. They do this fantasy football, I think it's called an auction-a-thon or draft-a-thon. I don't know what they call it. But basically, they auction off a bunch of stuff, and all the money goes to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And they said, Rick, can we auction off a Zoom call with you? I said, I cannot imagine why anybody would want to bid on that, but obviously it's for a good cause. So yes, of course you can. I'm happy to do it. We can talk about anything you want. Golf betting. We can talk about data. We can talk about sports. We can talk about Las Vegas. We can talk about building a business. I don't care. This time is yours. It's obviously a really great cause. And whatever money we raise is going to go to that. So I can't believe it's already been bid up to what it is, 27 bids, which is pretty crazy. I'll put that link in the description as well. And we can chat it up. It'll be a good time and all the money will go to a good cause. All right. This is probably going to be a pretty long show, right? Anytime you get a major championship in a course that either is on a rota or we haven't seen in a while, we got to go through everything. And the first portion of this is going to be a pretty nerdy, in-depth look at Royal Liverpool. So that's going to be the first portion of this. Then we'll get to the players in the field, the pricing, all that fun stuff along the way. But let me take you now to Hoylake and Royal Liverpool. So I'm going to use a couple of things to show you here. First off, the first resource will be my website, RickRunGood.com. This is a giant golf database for fantasy and betting, and you should sign up for it. I love it. You'll love it too. There is a regression model on the website. Now, for major championships, what I do is I look at other setups. I look at the drone footage. I do the measurements. I do the mapping. I talk to any members if I can, get as much insight as possible, and put together this model. Now, with Royal Liverpool, since we played here in 2014 and we have played here prior, I do have a bit more information than I did for, well, Oak Hill was pretty good, and then for LACC was a complete shot in the dark, right? Which ended up being pretty strong. So this is the model. I'm going to get back to this because I think we need to start with the overhead, the satellite imagery. The other thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you the every shot at series from Golf Digest. It's the drone footage here, okay? I love this series of videos that Golf Digest puts out where they fly you over. You can really get a good look of everything. So I'll point out a couple of items there. But what I want to do is I want to start with Google Earth. So for those of you who know, I map out golf courses, right? So I go to Google Earth. I use the satellite imagery. I map out golf courses. This started as a way for me to help the players that I work with have a better understanding of sight lines, where to miss, where not to miss, just basically be able to do your homework going into an event. And then I found it to be a very rewarding process that gives me a much more intimate knowledge of the golf course than I could have imagined. So you'll see my markings through here, but let me just point out a couple of things to you real quick. Obviously, this is going to be a links style golf course, a golf course where, Mother Nature has done a lot of the architecture, a lot of the design out here. A little bit, last week was at the Renaissance Club. That's a very modern links style golf course, but what you're going to see are pot bunkers, and pot bunkers everywhere. And pot bunkers at an Open Championship are a real hazard. Here is the fairway on number 1, and you'll see where I have this marked out is 300 yards. Okay, so these bunkers, what you're going to see constantly, or I'm sorry, this is 275. 300 is right here. What you're going to see constantly is that these pot bunkers are almost always on every hole, or a lot of these holes are between 275 and 300 yards. They are trying to gobble up just slightly off-center shots off the tee. And they're kind of magnetic, right? They kind of, the way the terrain rolls into them, they kind of want to gobble everything up. That is obviously by design. So what you're going to have, this is this opening tee shot is, you've got to carry it 280 yards to a 23-yard wide fairway. And if you miss, you are either in a pot bunker, in which you are at the luck of the draw of what you get. You might just be pitching out, or you are in this thick rough, which is going to cause you issues as well. So already, and I'll show you a couple more examples, but actually before I make that conclusion, that's one example there. Then you'll flip around, you'll see, number 2 is again, very similar. Number 2, I'm not going to run you through every single hole here, but number 2 has, again, a little bit wider fairways, 28 yards, which is still pretty small. And those bunkers coming into play at 300, 315 yards. Now, a lot of it will depend on this prevailing wind. So this prevailing wind here is out of the west. So number 2, in theory, would play downwind. Well, if you miss this by 10 yards left, you are OB on number 2. Okay. And I'll show you some of the footage of the drones for 1 and 2 real quick. Here is the first fairway. And you can see if you are up against the face of these bunkers, you are chipping out. Right? You're splashing it out. You really do not have much else to do. And this is just on the tee shot. This does not even include some of these second shots into these green complexes where you're going to be able to see there's a lot of undulation around the greens, pot bunkers everywhere. How about number 2? Same thing. Here's the difference, right? Pot bunkers cutting into the fairway on the right. The left is maybe 10 yards until you get to the cart path, and just on the other side of the cart path is OB. Like, wow. Okay. And then number 3 is, again, I'm not going to take you through every hole, but I am excited about this. Number 3 is going to be the most fascinating driving shot that we have, or off the tee shot that we have, because what they've done. So there is this wall that runs up along 3 on this dogleg right. It's like 2 feet tall. That will be internal OB. And you can see that's where all like the hospitality and all the TV trucks and all the broadcast stuff is. That is internal OB. The drive is going to ask these golfers to pick a number and go for it. So the corner of this is 240. This is 275, a little bit further right. 300 if you want to carry it to the middle of the fairway, and 310 on this line. So if you are a little bit offline here, you are screwed. If you try to hit it past if you try to just bang it to the other side of the fairway, this is very, very thick rough here. So again, I'm not going to take you through every single hole. But what you will find throughout this golf course is that I believe it is going to be an incredibly demanding off the tee challenge. I think that you are going to have to be long and straight. There are so many demanding shots that will play 300 yards to protected with bunkered fairways or to very narrow landing zones. I mean, this landing zone is 18 yards wide. 18 yards wide. That is nothing. I mean, it is just going to be such a challenge off the tee. So that to me is first and foremost. And the other thing that I like about this, like this is a really good example here. The mental side of the way that you have to drive the ball around here. Here's number 12. The outside edge of a lot of these dog legs usually have the pot bunkers, right? That's like, okay, if you bail out a little bit, it's going to catch these pot bunkers. But if you try to cut too much off, you get these like gorse bushes, which will kind of just gobble up your golf ball and you won't be able to find it. Or you'll have these like really undulated hills and mounds. So there's just really not a lot of bailout. So as I assess this golf course, I say, and I would tell the guys on tour too, right? Like you're just going to have to be so good off the tee. You're going to have to be so good off the tee. The model that I ran also kind of illustrates that. It has driving distance as ranking 8, which means there's only 7 other courses in which driving distance is more important. Accuracy also important, but there's 17 other courses in which accuracy is more important. And I think that's really where this event will be won. Now, what I will show you, and I'll just kind of pick through some spots here. I also believe that around the green play is going to be pretty critical. There's going to be so many awkward little creative spots around these greens as I kind of roll you through some of this footage where balls are going to go down to collection areas, or they're going to hang above your feet or below your feet, or you might be into one of those pot bunkers and you're just constantly having to hit something different every single time. You've got to have the full bevy of short game shots. I mean, look at this. You miss this hole and you're down below the green. It's above your head. It's going to be incredibly challenging from all of these tight lies that we have. So, I think that this will, again, it's kind of a bailout to say that, oh, this is a major championship and it's going to be a full examination, which obviously I agree with. But I think that off the tee will be critical. I think that around the green will be critical. Green speeds are always a little bit slower over here, and they're going to be tricky, right? There's a lot of nuances in these greens. There's a brand new hole that nobody's ever seen before, the par 3 17th, which is pretty short, but it'll be like a nice little, down the stretch hole. There's a lot going on here, but I think this is for drivers, and I think you better have a pretty stout around the green play. We can talk more about the course and all that stuff and do some of the satellite imagery on the live chat Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, because I know some people don't really care about this. It's pretty deep in the weeds. But like real quick, last thing here. 15 is a joke, right? 15 is a par 3 where the layup is a literal joke, right? Like it is actually probably better off taking a crack at this green in 2 and dealing with the pot bunkers around the green than trying to lay up to an area where it is so narrow that if you miss, you've just added at least a half a shot to your score. So very, very well thought out strategic golf course that I think is going to force these guys to hit a lot of great shots. Okay, I guess we can move on, but I could nerd out on this golf course for a very long time. So we can do that over the course of the week. Let's go look at the cheat sheet. Let's start naming some names and let's start figuring this thing out. Here it is, the cheat sheet. Oh man, just inject this right into my veins right now. And again, just a reminder, basically everything you see from here on out is my website, RickRunGood.com. Really quick, what do you notice? Scotty Scheffler catches a $12,500 price tag, and DraftKings goes below their normal $6,000 minimum and gives us golfers all the way down to $5,500. Okay, that's going to create some interesting situations. Hat tip to DraftKings, changing it up a little bit. How rare is this? Pretty rare, right? If we go over to the Holy Grail, go to the fantasy tab, and just sort by highest salary, this Scotty Scheffler price tag is the highest non-tour championship salary that I have in my database since I've been tracking salaries for like the last 5 years. The tour championship is obviously different because it's a smaller field. There's a staggered start, so I usually don't count that in terms of the salary stuff. So, and it's pretty much blowing away the previous highest salary, which was Jon Rahm at the 2021 Fortinet Championship, where he was $12,100. So this is the most expensive since I've been tracking, and or non-tour championship. So it's an absolute big number. It's only the 8th salary of $12,000 or more during this stretch. And not that it matters, but 4 of the previous 7 guys 12K or more have missed the cut. Again, that means nothing for Scotty Scheffler this week, just pointing it out. So Scotty Scheffler catches a $12,500 tag. Rory McIlroy $11,009, Jon Rahm $11,200, Cam Smith $10,700, Brooks Koepka $10,400, Xander $10,100, Victor Hovland $10,000 even. Remember that the pricing came out before the result of the Scottish Open. So Rory McIlroy probably would have been more expensive. When you look at the betting odds, Rory McIlroy is the favorite, 6-1 in most places at this point. So here I go. You'd say there's some built-in value on Rory, but we're gonna have to talk about all these guys. So let's get to it. Scotty Scheffler is the most expensive, and he should be. What he is doing from tee to green is nothing short of phenomenal. If you've been following golf or following this channel for any stretch of time, Scotty Scheffler is doing something that very few, if any, have ever done before from tee to green. He's lapping the field. He has not finished outside the top 12 in over 260 days. That was 19 starts ago, or 20 starts ago. He's on a stretch of 19 straight in which he's finished inside the top 12. He is finding a way to put himself in contention, even in weeks where he is one of the worst putters in the field, because he's always one of the best tee to green players. When you go back and you look at, this golf course and you think about what you're going to need, I believe you're going to need to be a long, straight driver of the golf ball. I believe that you're going to have a sound around the green play. That is certainly in Scotty Scheffler's wheelhouse. You look at his Open Championship history, a T21 last year at the Old Course, and an 8th place finish at Royal St. George's. So, or 2022 and 2021. So you are really basically just deciding, hey, is he the guy for me? Can I fit him in a lineup at 12,500? Because there's seemingly no statistical or no reason to think that Scotty Scheffler is going to struggle around Royal Liverpool. His last 5 major championships have all been T21 or better. 4 of them have been top 10s. 3 of them have been 3rd or better. And that's with no wins at those 5 major championships. So again, I'll just hammer this home one more time. Last 36 rounds, Scotty Scheffler is the best player in the world. He's getting 2.8 strokes gained per round. He's doing it from tee to green and lapping the field, 3.3 strokes gained from tee to green per round. There's only 3 golfers who are gaining over 2 per round, and 2 of them have a very, 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 very small sample size of tee to green metrics because they play on live, Brooks Koepka and Henrik Stenson. So really, if we get rid of the guys who primarily reside on live, which I don't want to do, but just for this comparison, because they don't track the shot-by-shot data on live, so it skews it a little bit. There's only 1 golfer gaining more than 1.9 strokes per round from tee to green, and Scotty's at 3.3. So pretty wild stuff. It's going to be a matter of whether you can fit him in your lineup or not, and what that ownership is going to be. We'll have the projected ownership much earlier in the week. We'll be pretty dialed in. We'll have a really good grasp of it for the live chat on Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, RickRunGood YouTube channel. Rory McIlroy was likely my pick to win this Open Championship. I'll be the cartoon character who just steps on the rake again and again, and it smacks him in the face. But Rory's quote unquote struggles, I think, are very much overblown. And this was before, obviously, he goes out and wins at the Scottish Open, which, it lowers his odds. He's going to be much more popular. I get it. We'll see what the ownership projections say. But Rory McIlroy, for my money, he and Jon Rahm basically 1A, 1B in terms of best drivers on the planet. You can see what he did at the Renaissance Club, gained 5.5 strokes off the tee, gained another 5.5 on approach. That's kind of the low-key sick part about this. He's been very consistent on approach in his last 3 starts. He's gained basically 5.5 in each of his last 3. The putter, so this is a weird thing that's going on with Rory. When you watch him, and it's not wrong, you see him saw him miss a lot of makeable putts over the course of the weekend at the Scottish Open. You're like, man, he's really being held back by the putter. Statistically, it's not really the case. He's gained strokes putting in 6 straight events, which is only the second time in his career that he's done that. So we've got a phenomenal tee to green player with a skill set that sets up beautifully for Royal Liverpool. Oh, by the way, the last time he won a major championship, and the last time in his only Open championship was at this golf course. Now I get it; it's 9 years ago. But this is, I'll say, I'll step on the rake again. Feels very much like Rory's time. Okay, so I'm going to love to see what the Jon Rahm projected ownership is, because I think there's a really good chance Scotty's popular, Rory's popular, and Jon Rahm is kind of left here hanging by himself. And that's likely a mistake. Look at Jon Rahm's major championship record. So he's got the T10 at the US Open. He won the Masters, the T50 at the PGA Championship in between, but he has gained strokes to the field, and a lot, in every major championship dating back to the 2019 US Open. Okay. A lot of top 10 finishes along the way. You look at his Open championship record. He's got the 3rd at Royal St. George's, the T11 at Portrush. It's actually not as good as you would kind of expect for somebody of his caliber, but he's going to drive it well. He has all the short game shots, and nobody's talking about him. I'm likely living with those 3. Okay, that's why I spent so much time on him. We'll see as the week goes on what the trends are, but I'm likely living with those 3. I think you're going to get a fairly inflated Brooks Koepka at 10,400, and I don't think it's wrong. He's having one of the best major championship seasons, right? The win at the PGA Championship, the runner-up at the Masters, and the T17 at the US Open. I said it. I mean, I followed Brooks a lot at 2 of those major championships, and the way that he hits the golf ball is not fair. Like, I don't see anybody else who can hit it as high, as far, as straight. I mean, the ball comes off his club in a different way, and I've seen a lot of Brooks Koepka this year. But I think when you only get access to him basically 4 times a year, it's going to be pretty inflated. And then Cam Smith, just a reminder, Cam Smith is coming off the victory on Live, and he's your defending champion. However, I'm kind of taking a stance here that, this is no old course. The old course at St. Andrews where Cam Smith won last year, I mean, it's very wide open off the tee. A lot of double fairways, literally some of the largest and widest fairways in major championship golf. This is not that. You are going to have to be really strong off the tee. I'll say it once. I'll say it a million times. So that does not necessarily rule out Cam Smith. I just think it creates a situation where he is going to have to be so much better from the field everywhere else. Is he capable of doing that? Yes. I just think it creates a much more narrow path to the top of the board for him. And I hate to say it because it feels kind of like baloney, but like, outside of his win, which is weird to say, his Open championship record's not particularly great. I just think that the old course was it's like the perfect Cam Smith setup. I just don't know if we're going to get that again this week. And then the bottom 2 in Xander and Victor Hovland, they're probably just going to end up being casualties to the way I'm going to build lineups for me this week. I'll bet Victor. I always bet Victor. I believe that he's very much going to be able to separate himself off the tee. When you want to play Victor, you want to do it at a place where he can do that, where he can gain on the field with the driver because he's such a great driver of the golf ball. So I'm happy with that. But he's probably just a casualty of how I'm going to end up building lineups here. But I will bet him, and I'll be happy with that, and I'll root for him and all that fun stuff. But For me, especially with the way that the pricing is setting up and you can get some guys for cheaper this week, I'm living at the top. I'm going with a big-time elite, Scotty, Rory, Rahm. They're going to have a lot of exposure in my lineups. I'll figure it out along the way. We'll see what the ownership says, but that feels like the way to start playing this at the top of the board. The 9K range is fun. Ken Patrick can't play well at a major championship. We'll find out. Coming off of a Scottish Open in which he missed the cut and was hemorrhaging strokes on the putting surface, I believe. He was. Let me just confirm that before I move on. But I'm pretty sure he lost 3 strokes putting in round 1. Lost a stroke and a half over the first 2 rounds, missed the cut. So we got to talk about a couple of items here. I'm more worried about Jordan Spieth than I've probably been in some time. And I think there's part of me that wants to say, oh, it's an Open Championship. I'm worried about Spieth long-term, or I'm worried about Spieth for the next month, but I can't be worried about him at an Open Championship. And I guess that's kind of true, but shouldn't I'm also worried that he missed the cut at the Scottish Open and didn't play particularly well. On the plus side, if you look at this tournament, so obviously it rotates. It's not played the same course every year. But if you look at this tournament, and everybody in this field or in the world going back to 2008, nobody's been better at the Open Championship than Jordan Spieth is. He's gaining 2.4 strokes gained per round in 36 rounds. There is nobody who's played as many rounds as he has and has played them as well. Rory McIlroy's kind of close. He's played 8 more rounds and he's at 1.96, but Spieth is the guy at Open Championships. So what's the concern? Well, he's missed 4 of his last 6 cuts, including one on a Modern Links course at the Renaissance Club. When he has played the Open Championship before, he has always come in much better form. Last year he finished T10 at the Scottish Open, then T8 at the Open Championship. In 2021, he had come off of, he went, look at this run before the Open Championship. He was on fire. He won in the Texas Open, 3rd at the Masters, top 10 at the Craig Ranch, 30th at the PGA, runner-up at Colonial, T18 at the Memorial, T19 at the U.S. Open, and then runner-up at the Open Championship. Way better form there. 2020, there was not an Open Championship. 2029, this is the only other time in his career he is going to enter the Open Championship coming off of a missed cut. He did it in 2019. He missed the cut at the Travelers and finished T20 at Royal Portrush. This is the first time in his career he's ever coming in off of consecutive missed cuts. But my point being that if you go back and look, most years it's significantly better form, which has me a bit worried. And I think that there's going to be a lot of rush to just say, it's Jordan Spieth at an Open Championship, I'm going to fire away, and maybe that's true, but I don't think I will be as exposed. I would prefer to find access to Colin Morikawa at $9,600, for example. We've been tracking him for quite some time, where the results on the golf course in the win column and the stats and the discourse does not add up on Morikawa. He is having a much better year than anybody will tell you. He's driving it well. He's driving it, the best he has basically all year right now. He's back to being an elite approach player, a stroke and a half per round. The putter has been great. 4 in a row, he's gained strokes with the flat stick. Obviously, I don't have to tell you, his win at Royal St. George's is good enough history for me. He missed the cut at St. Andrews, kind of hemorrhaging strokes in the short game categories. But this is just a bizarre year, and it feels like Morikawa is very, very close. If you look at the trends tool, which is one of my favorite tools on the website, which takes every golfer's 100-round baseline and then looks at how they're playing compared to themselves over whatever period of time. I have 36 rounds in here. Morikawa's, who we would all agree has a great 100-round baseline, is playing better than that right now. He's playing a quarter of a stroke per round better than himself, and he's doing it across the board in all 4 major strokes gained categories. That's a very good sign, right? It's so weird. If I didn't watch any tournament, if I didn't listen to any interview, if I didn't know the results and you just showed me stat profiles, I would tell you this guy's probably got a couple of wins already this year, right? It's just, it doesn't match up. It feels like that rubber band is about to snap and he's going to go on a run. And that's the way that I interpret that stat profile. The bottom of this range, interested to see what people do with Hatton and Fleetwood. 9,400, 9,300. Both of them had, quote, disappointing Sundays at the Scottish Open. Tommy Fleetwood never really in the mix on Sunday, which was a little bit unfortunate because I think people had overnight hopes that he was going to be able to get the job done. And then Tyrrell Hatton actually got into the lead and then coughed it up on his second nine, and we'll see what people do with that. Both of them, if you zoom out, are having, phenomenal years. Last 36 for everybody in this field across all tours. So this usually gives more of a benefit of the doubt to guys that play on like the European Tour, the Asian Tour, because it's just raw strokes gained. Tyrrell Hatton's the 10th best player in this field. Tommy Fleetwood's the 20th. If we get rid of the Senior Tour, we get rid of the Asian Tour, we get rid of the Korn Ferry, Live, and Euro, and just say, give me your PGA stuff. Hatton is the 6th best golfer. Fleetwood is the 12th best golfer. And that's just raw strokes gained over the last 36 rounds. So interested to see what the industry does with those two, and we can kind of make some moves there. But I'm hoping there'll be a little bit of an overreaction to what we saw on Sunday. My favorite live guy for this week is Dustin Johnson. Now, remember, he got off to a hot start at the PGA Championship at Oak Hill. He was like in the lead or very close to the lead after 36 holes, and it was entirely around the green and putting. It was like 6 strokes gained in the short game, and we knew regression was coming. It did. He faded on the weekend. He finished T55. I was pretty concerned about that. US Open, a much better stat profile. This is the stat profile you want to see out of Dustin Johnson at a major championship, where he gains 7.5 strokes ball striking, another 4 around the green, and he actually even loses with the flat stick, finishes T10. He's got an 8th and a 5th on live in his last 2 starts. If I can get that stat profile around a golf course that will be as demanding as this in the ball striking categories, I'm in. Right. This is the live guy that I'm most excited about. Look at his last 2 years of Open Championship stuff. T6 at St. Andrews, 8th place finish at Royal St. George's. I think DJs could have a really, really good week. But maybe the guy I'm most excited about is Cam Young at $9,000. And this feels like the timing is right. So zoom out. Cam Young, what do we have? We have one of the best drivers on tour. Long, straight, gains a ton to the field. That's not super uncommon on the PGA Tour. It's a modern game. A lot of these guys hit it far. The uncommon part about Cam Young is when he's going well, he has a great short game, and he's a very, very good putter. And he has dealt with a couple of little mini slumps in the short game areas. And so he's had basically 2 mini slumps in his very young career. And each time you have basically been able to see him patch the leaks along the way, and you can see him getting out of these slumps, and they've both basically ended up with great results coming out of that. He has a mini slump, starts getting out of it at Bay Hill, goes and finishes runner-up at the match play, finishes T7 at the Masters. That's how he got out of that slump, and you could see it coming. Then he gets into another mini slump, and now we've been tracking him the last couple of weeks, and it looks like he's coming out of it. And then he goes T6 at Deer Run, and now it feels, if we're going to get the true ceiling version of Cam Young, this is a perfect spot for him. Absolute perfect spot. He finished runner-up at the Open Championship last year, kind of stole that solo second from Rory by driving 18 and making the eagle putt. But man, it's fun because we don't, he's so young. We have much less data on him than a lot of others, but seeing the cyclical nature of his ebbs and flows is awesome. And you can see it in the stat sheet, and he's already done this a couple of times. And this is a really good setup for him. So I love the timing of getting to Cam Young here at $9,000. A lot of interesting ownership discussions will come out of the 9K range because you're going to have some really popular guys like Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth. You're going to have some of these more recent favorites like Tyrrell Hatton and Tommy Fleetwood. What are guys going to do with Matt Fitzpatrick, who has 3 straight top 25 finishes at the Open Championship, coming off of a miscut at the Scottish Open. So I think this is a really interesting range that we can discuss more in depth on Wednesday. Here's the 8K range. Hideki at $8,900 down to Justin Rose at $8,000. I think on the surface, Wyndham Clark is pretty undervalued. $8,700 for a guy who's won twice, including a major championship this year, is pretty disrespectful. And I know, like, listen, I get it. It takes a little bit of time for everybody to figure out what this guy is, but we've got a pretty extended period of time. This is the last 50 rounds. He's the 4th best player in the world in the last 50 rounds. That's a long time. 50 rounds is basically half a year. It's basically 6 months. So, at $8,700, that feels a little bit wrong. He does it in a way that is pretty reliable, very good ball striker. He's well-rounded. He putts it well, obviously, with that Odyssey Jailbird. Not an ad, but I'll take one. Odyssey, if you want to send one over. So I think right off the bat, that stands out to me. We've got this continuing situation that we have to track with Justin Thomas because he has been hovering in some of the lowest price tags we've ever seen on him. $8,300 at the Scottish Open was the cheapest we've ever seen him. He's a little bit more expensive this week. Did we see anything to give us reason for hope? Not really, right? He made the cut, great, but continues to struggle with the putter, which has always been a problem for him. He's not driving it well, and he's now lost strokes on approach in 2 straight and in 4 of 6. When JT's at his best, he is a +1 off the tee. He's a +5 on approach. He's a +2 around the green, and he's a 0 putter. That's the JT I want. We are far removed from that, unfortunately. Also, his Open Championship record is not very good. His best finish was T11. That was at Portrush. Missed 2 cuts in 18 and 17. Nothing else inside the top 40. So that's, again, pretty worrisome. I will continue to try to be early on Justin Thomas, but I've got to see some signs of life first. Sam Burns is, I think, maybe the most interesting. There's a lot of guys that have to prove what they are at major championships. And Sam Burns has not really had a great run at majors. His best finish was that Southern Hills PGA Championship where he finished 20th. He's made more cuts as of late, 5 of his last 6 or 6 of his last 7, but it's not higher end finishes. His result last week, the Scottish Open, is a bit skewed, right? So he finishes T19. Remember, he made a triple on 10, a par 5, that really weird rule situation where his ball was basically hanging on the lip of the bunker, and he tried to get a relief from there. He never got it. He makes triple. That's 3 strokes right there. Who knows how that impacts the rest of it? But like that T9, for 71 holes last week, he was a lot better than T19 was, and we're starting to see more signs of life from him. So even with that T19, that's his 3rd T19 or better in his last 5. T6 at Charles Schwab was his best finish during that run. When he's on, he drives it well, he hits his approach as well, and he can putt, which is a pretty deadly combination in most places. So I think he's kind of just the most interesting, and we'll see what people do. Got to give a lot of respect here to Justin Rose. Rosie is really proving to be a much better approach player now than he's been for quite some time. Look at these approach numbers going back to, even the start of the year, but just more recently. Since the PGA Championship, he's played 6 events. He's gained 4 or more strokes on approach in 4 of them. He's been phenomenal around the green, as he always is, and he's always a very good putter. I worry about the lack of distance, right? I'm sitting here looking at this golf course thinking, man, everything is, if you can fly it 310, you can get past a lot of this stuff. Probably not Justin Rose's forte. He's going to bring a lot of that trouble into play, which worries me, but ton of Open Championship experience. He's finished runner-up as recent as Carnoustie in 2018. T6 at St. Andrews in 15. Last time he played Royal Liverpool, he finished T23. So I think there's enough good vibes there. This tier as a whole is pretty interesting. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people running to get access to these guys. If you look at the trends tool, there's a lot of them, half of them, if not more, are playing significantly below their own baseline. Justin Thomas in the last 36 is more than a stroke per round worse than his baseline. That's horrible. Max Homa, a half a stroke per round worse than his baseline. Tony Finau, more than that, worse than his baseline. Sung J M is under. Tom Kim, even with his great finish last week, is under. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people running to get access to these guys. Then you throw in Hideki, who is never respected as much as he should be. Bryson, who hasn't had a great Open Championship history. There's not a lot of action here, which makes these guys decent targets in things that are game theory-esque. So if you're playing one and done, if you are trying to be a little bit different, if you're playing on Jock Market is stock market DFS, where you Basically a golfer just has to outperform whatever expectation there is. So every golfer IPOs as a stock on Wednesday night. So for example, last week at the Scottish Open, Rory McIlroy's IPO on Wednesday night was $9.75. And then based on finishing positions, there's guaranteed payouts. So Rory won, he got the guaranteed payout of $25 per share. You made $15 per share, but every position has a payout. So Robert McIntyre, who didn't win, made you a ton in the Jock market, like $15 a share, because you went from $4.26 per share to $20 per share. And that sentiment, how people care or what their expectation of them is huge in Jock market, because that's what sets the initial price. So these guys who are seemingly not going to be all that popular are, I think, better in a format like this. So if you want to check it out, that data is free on RickRunGood.com. You can download the data, you can manipulate it. You can sign up and get a $100 deposit bonus. The code is Rick. I have a link in the description, and also they have the prop pick'em stuff now. So there's a lot of different ways to play Jock market. So really interesting range right here. Let's go to the 7Ks. Taylor Gooch at $7,800. You know, he's having a banner year on Live, thrice a winner. This year, you look at his major championship record, it's not particularly good, which worries me a little bit. He's missed 2 of his last 4 cuts and then a T34 at the other 2. He has played the Open Championship twice. He's finished 33rd and a T34. We'll see. Probably I'm like a 4.5 out of 10. I think Corey Connors is a little bit more interesting. You know, Connors is not the longest player in the world, but he's certainly not short, but he's one of the most accurate. Literally hits a ton of fairways, and when he does miss fairways, he misses very, very small. 6th in distance from edge of fairway, which is a stat that says when you do miss, how much do you miss by? And that shows because he's gaining strokes off the tee in every event dating back to the Players' Championship. Starting to put some good results together as well. 4 top 20 finishes in his last 6. Ball striking magician. Is he a good putter? No. Has he been as bad as he normally as he has been in his career? No. Okay, better than that. And then his Open Championship history is like kind of sneaky good. Missed the cut in 19, but 15th in 2021, 28th last year, and that was losing strokes on approach around St. Andrews, which is probably something he's not going to do frequently. He's a very, very good ball striker. So I think that Corey Connors makes a lot of sense. We talked before about Minwoo Lee and how a lot of his good results are at some of these big time events, whether they're major championships or just some more elevated events. But look at the last 4 majors. So one of each. That's 3 top 21 finishes for Minwoo, including a 5th place finish at the US Open. He had another 14th place finish at the Masters in 2022. He's kind of like a low-key big game hunter. Obviously, he's not winning them, but I mean, the T9 at the Travelers right after the US Open, the T15 at the British Masters, which, by the way, RickRunGood.com has Asian Tour, European Tour, if you haven't figured that out by now. So you've got to have access to all of this. It's a global game, and the Open Championship is a global championship. So if you don't have access to the European Tour data, you're crazy, especially for weeks like this, because you got to have it. And I've got the strokes gain metrics for it as well. You know, guys that worry me, like Sahith, who finally, you know, hat tip, Sahith just ended one of the longest made cut streaks on the PGA Tour. It's been forever since he missed the cut, just missed the cut last week at the Scottish Open. And I honestly don't think this is a great spot for him either, right? I mean, the problem with last week was he sprays it off the tee. You can get into a lot of trouble. Same thing this week, but even more ramped up. I love Sahith. I think he could have a good run at 3M. I think he could have a good run depending on how deep into the playoffs he gets. But it's just too, you know, driving, I think, and keeping it in play is too important this week. It's one of the most interesting metrics. One of the other most interesting metrics is that half of you watching right now are not subscribed to the Rick Run Good YouTube channel. So there might be like 10,000 people watching and 5,000 of you are not subscribe. So if you could just subscribe, hit the notification, that'd be great. I think I've built up enough equity at this point that I'm going to give you, you know, at least decent content every single week about golf stats and not ask you for all that much more. I'd love to get to like 30,000 subscribers. It'll help everybody, help me do more stuff, and it'll be good all around. The rest of this 7K range. So Minwoo and Connors definitely stand out to me. Denny McCarthy, I'm proceeding with caution. Denny's having a banner year. He's been phenomenal. This is his first Open Championship, which worries me a little bit. I also worry that I hate to rule him out because I don't think he's long enough, quote unquote, but I do worry about his ability to drive it. I think that I'm probably just going to take a pass on most Denny situations, unless he comes in at like 2% owned, but probably just take a pass on most Denny situations and catch up with him down the road. I don't particularly fancy anybody else in this range. Ryan Fox, I guess, is interesting because he finished 12th last week at the Scottish Open. If you remember back from the course key stats, he always models really well on golf courses that benefit, off the distance, off the tee and driving distance, because he's an absolute flush machine and he bombs it. But I mean, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 made cuts in a row where 3 of them are top 25s. He finished T43 at the US Open, T23 at the PGA Championship. So he's finished top 30 at each of the first 3 major championships, and his Open Championship record's not particularly great, but this is probably one of the better setups on the road for him. He didn't play this in 2014, right? He's not that old. No, he didn't. Yeah, so that would be the other guy in the 7K range that I think is at least a little bit interesting. So as we get to the 6K range, I'm going to go back to the strokes gained, to the trends tool. So strokes gained trend, that column right there, takes a golfer's 100 round baseline. It looks at how they're playing in whatever number of rounds that you want and adjusts it. So Scotty Scheffler, who's playing over his baseline, gets a boost up 2.8 strokes gained per round, et cetera, et cetera. Padraig Harrington is in here, 6,600. Now, I will say, a lot of those rounds are him beating up on guys on the Champions Tour, on the Senior Tour, but he's been playing well all over the globe. T27 at the US Open, T42 at the Scottish Open. He's made the cut at all 3 major championships this year. He's played 1, 2, 3 regular PGA Tour events this year. He's made the cut in all of them, including a T10 at the Valero, all while beating up on these Champions Tour guys. Played well enough last week, T42 at the Renaissance Club, and that was much better until he shot actually, I'll just pull it up for you. We'll go strokes gained per round. Get Tom Kim out of here. I must have had him selected for something. We'll go to Padraig Harrington. We'll look at his round by round stuff. Yeah, I mean, he gained strokes to the field the first 3 rounds last week and then gives it up on Sunday. Let me adjust this so you can probably see my screen a little bit better. Come on. There we go. On the weekend, too. I mean, he was phenomenal for the first 2 rounds. He gained nearly 6 strokes in the first 2 rounds, lost a stroke and a half on Saturday, 2.2 on Sunday. I'm pretty interested in this guy. So where else can we go? Well, you can go back to Romain Langesque, who finished 25th at the Scottish Open. I probably prefer a bit more Jordan L. Smith. Very, very valuable last week. And no reason to think he's not going to continue to play well. Look at these ball striking numbers. These ball striking numbers are insane, right? I mean, he has been flushing it. He gained another 6 in the ball striking categories last week, finished T12. So he's played, played the US Open, finished T10 there. He's been on this great run. His Open Championship record's not particularly good. Missed the cut in 2018 at Carnoustie and then T47 last year. But these ball striking numbers, the tee to green numbers, are pretty hard to overlook. Really, really strong stuff. I bet you, I don't know. I mean, let's just do, I'm going to try to do this on the fly here. Let's just do the last 24 rounds. Everybody in this field from tee to green. Like, where does Jordan L. Smith rank? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like ninth. Pretty darn good. So that's, he might be at this point my favorite in the 6K range. Alexander Bjork made the cut again last week. I think he finished T35. That's fine. Trying to see if there's anybody else here that is of super value in the 6K range. Let's sort this by strokes gained total. Yeah, we get Bork, we get Robert McIntyre. I'll tell you what, McIntyre, this is a tough one. I think people are going to chase this a little bit. He's not having like a great year. Obviously, he played great last week, and his Open Championship stuff is pretty good. So I think people are going to chase this. It's been fine, right? He's been playing on the DP World Tour, had a couple of top 10 finishes earlier in the year. It's okay. I just don't want to be involved in like a very chalky $6,800 Robert McIntyre. Taylor Moore is terrifying. If you handed me this stat profile, I'd probably cry. He has the T4 at Rocket Mortgage, but he gained 11 strokes in the short game categories, immediately regressed, no surprise there, and has missed 4 of his other 5 cuts during that stretch. Very, very scary stat profile. I hope it turns around. Love the guy, love the game, but that's going to be tough to buy. JT Poston, though. JT Poston, probably with the early pricing, is a pretty decent value as well. Back-to-back T6 finishes at the John Deere and the Scottish Open. It was easy to write off the John Deere T6 because he's won that event before. Harder to write off back-to-back T6s. You can still do it because he's gained 7 strokes putting in each of them, which are 2 of his 4 best putting performances ever. So maybe it is still kind of easy to write that off. I don't think we're going to get another 7 strokes gained, but he did hit it better. I mean, he gained 3.5 strokes on approach, lost 4.5. How did he do that? How do you lose 4.5 off the tee? Yikes. So a little bit better, but probably still proceed with caution. But let's get to the 5K range, which is something I've probably never said before. I'm going to flip this over to the global view because a lot of these guys playing all over the place don't have, all the same amount of data as each other. So flip to the global view. It'll help with the results because they're playing on different tours. So who's playing well, who's not? Ernie Els is playing well, but again, he's beaten up on the Champions Tour guys. Do you care about that? If you do, he's there. I think a couple of interesting options would be, let's look at Travis Smith, okay? So Travis Smith is putting up some decent results on the Asian Tour. So he's got a 13th place finish. That was in April, 65th in Thailand, 7th in Qatar, 30th in Oman, 6th at the Saudi International. I thought he was on Live. Maybe he's not on Live. Oh, he was on Live last year. Maybe he's not on Live anymore. So I don't know what his status situation is, but the last time we've seen him play, well, now I got to look it up. Hold on. Yeah, this was Vietnam. The last time he played anywhere in the world, which was in April. Oof. I don't know what he's been up to. Richie Ramsey, I know what he's been up to because he made the cut last week at the Scottish Open. I think he finished 35th. Does that sound right? 42nd. So this is I think Richie Ramsey is probably the best player in the 5K range. He hasn't missed a cut since April 30th. So it's like 10 in a row. A 5th at the Scandinavian Mix. That was just a couple of weeks ago. A 3rd at the Maiden Himmerland. That was 2 weeks ago. And then he just made the cut last week. Like, I'm pretty sure Richie Ramsey's just the best player in the 5K range. Is there anybody else who can compete with that? Like, is there anybody who's going to throw their hat in the ring on that? Current form-wise? I love David Micheluzzi, but he has not played the way that I would like. He's $5,600. Saw a ton of him at the PGA Championship. He missed the cut there. Yeah, I think this is a flyer on Smith, and Richie Ramsey at 5,900 is the guy that unlocks a lot of those higher end lineups. Let me just look at Ernie real quick. I gotta look at Ernie Els. I don't get a chance. Look at that smile. Don't get a chance to look at it. Yeah, he's playing great. It's the Champions Tour. 3rd, 12th, 3rd, 10th, 9th. That's his last 5. He's been phenomenal. Open Championship. What's he done at recent Open Champion? Yeah, missed his last 2 cuts. T32, that was 2019. He doesn't have a top 25 since Lytham, which was 2012. Probably tough to fire up Ernie. He's having a great run, though. All right, now we get to have some real fun. We're going to go to the custom model, RickRunGood.com. Custom model, put in any weights that you want. What I did was, for this week, and I'll zoom in a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, I added underneath course history, strokes gained the Open. So that's Open Championship history. You got to love that, right? So because of the Rota, like how sick is that? So we added that for this week. All right. Let me think about this. Well, let's just break it down. Let's go with driving, distance and accuracy, 15 on distance, 10 on accuracy. Approach play. I'm going to do strokes gained approach last 50 for 20. Around the green play, I want longer term savvy guys. Last 100, 20. Putting in the last 50, 10. I have 25 left. So I'm going to put 10 on strokes gained the Open because that's sick and I want to do it. And I want to I have 15 left. I could do opportunities gained or opportunities plus. I could do birdie or better gained. I could do bogey avoidance, might be kind of interesting this week. Let's put 5 on bogey avoidance and let's go a little bit upside and do 10. Well, I already did putting. I don't want to do putting again. I'll do our last 10 on birdies or better gained. My number one golfer is Scotty Scheffler. No surprise. He's going to model out beautifully basically everywhere. How about this, though? Number 2, Ricky Fowler. Number 3 is Patrick Cantlay. Xander 4, Rory 5, Rahm 6, Fleetwood and Finau 7, 8. Finau gets a big bump on strokes gained the Open. Spieth as well. He's 9th. Hatton 10th. Wyndham Clark is 11th at 8,700. That's pretty interesting. Jason Day is 15th at 7,800. That's pretty interesting. Andrew Putnam is 18th at 6,500. Wow. Todd ranks out pretty. I mean, even Patty Harrington, 66. Oh, you know what we could do? All right, hold on. Let me save this. I'm going to save this model. 2023 Open Monday. Save this. What we could also do is what we should have done is probably do this. Let's go into, I'm going to take off the birdie or better and bogey avoidance stuff, and I'm actually going to do weighted strokes gained because we've got a lot of guys from different tours, and this, says, okay, strength of field, everything considered, it weighs it out. So Scotty's still number 1. So we see some guys drop off. Fleetwood is now number 2, playing well in big events. Rory 3, Fitzpatrick 4, Ricky 5. Trying to see who else got Victor got a pretty big bump on the weighted stuff. Yeah, Padraig Harrington drops to 40th because of his senior tour stuff. That makes sense. Corey Connors and Minwoo, both 7,700, 31st and 32nd. I don't mind that one single bit. Okay, lots to figure out. Here's what I'll say. Go sign up for RickRunGood.com. Get access to all the European and international data and model till your heart's content. Go sign up for the Splash contest because I imagine that's going to be filled pretty quickly. Go sign up for my newsletter for free and be entered in a draw to get one of those swag boxes. If you donate to St. Jude and go win that eBay auction, I will chat with you soon because we're going to have a private Zoom call about anything you want. And then subscribe to the YouTube channel. Not so much to ask, only like 5 things. Most of them are free, and most of them benefit you. And me too. It's a win-win. Don't get me wrong. All right, lots more awesome content coming this week. All those links will be in the description. You don't have to remember where they're at. I'll throw them all down there. You can take care of it. But really appreciate it. It's going to be an awesome week, guys. Hey, this is the last major championship till April. Soak it in. Enjoy it. It's going to be awesome.